And I'm going to warn you right now, this is a conversation video where I'm talking out loud about what I want to do in the near future, like over the next few weeks. And it's a little long-winded. It's not going to be a tightly edited, fast-paced YouTube video that you're used to seeing this, but this is me explaining my current position with this channel and where to go with it from here. And I need your feedback. So thanks for the patience. The website, photography that I give to Patreon supporters to compensate for the website. And the third thing would be the documentary videos. Narrating it and said, well, I've been floating the idea of a Patreon site. And I could say over the last week it's been in my head a lot, but in reality it's probably been over a year because I dabbled with it at one point, but I didn't get much traction, but I didn't know how to promote myself either. So I've been kind of posting stuff on YouTube or Facebook to develop a following to sort of repitch what I'd want to ultimately do. And what I ultimately want to do is kind of change gears, sort of. What I'd like to do is to be able to create content and give that content to Patreon supporters. But I want to make it as accessible to as many people as possible. But I also recognize what I'm doing is very much a niche. There's not a lot of demand for it at the moment. So if I make it a real low-value Patreon with a small niche, like it's not going to get good turnout. So I got to find a balance. So this isn't necessarily a pitch to you right now. This is a kind of a conversation to ask you what you think would be a good idea or which direction I should go for this YouTube channel. Because I like making some farm update videos on occasion, but I don't have the time to do it regularly. I work full-time, and then the farming takes a lot of time on itself, and being able to like just get away to have that focused time to edit a video is very rare. And this one I'm going to record on the fly directly into the computer and hopefully not have to edit it and just throw it up there. So we'll start it from the beginning. When I first bought a drone, I bought a larger drone, which I still have and use to fly with a mirrorless camera. And what I wanted to do was create really nice landscape photos that are not excessively priced. Like usually when you go shopping around a photographer's private website, you might think, well, that's a nice print, but I'm not going to spend like $300 on that print or whatever he's charging. So what I was doing, the mic might drop out a couple times because as I'm trying to show a photo, I might turn away from the camera or turn away from the microphone. So here we got a photo that's maybe like 5 feet wide. Oh, and upside down. Here. This is the Elkhorn River, kind of between West Point and Scribner. It was shot during the harvest season, and all those dust trails that are up on it are from like garbage or grain trucks and combines. And you might be wondering, well, why are you showing me a print? Why don't you just show me the digital file on the screen? Well, I want you to see the print because I want you to know when these things are printed, they get a higher resolution. Most drones, if you shoot and print some of the photos, they don't turn out so well. But this one, like I shot this from a ways away. Let's see, there's a house here. Like I could count how many round bales are right there. 1, 2, 3, 4. Looks about like 15 round bales that are sitting there. And that's on a print that's, I don't know, 5 feet wide or so. We'll lay this one down. I'll show you one more. This photo is of Dodge, Nebraska. It's kind of hard to show it with this microphone stand in the way. But if you ever go to Dodge, Nebraska, there's a restaurant called The Eat, which is actually a really nice, almost like, I guess, yeah, I think it'd be fair to call it fine dining. the restaurant has the same experience as going to like Omaha, Nebraska, and downtown. Really nice place, and that's in Dodge, Nebraska. But that's not the point of the video. The point is, these photos are shot with the emphasis on quality. And the way I'm able to do it is either by stacking or stitching or both. And stacking is you take a bunch of photos and you stack them all together, and the software is able to align the pixels to create a sharper image. Or you stitch them, which you take a photo here and take a photo here and then another photo here and here and here, and you stitch it all together so you can get like 20 images to make one large image. That's how that's able to make a big panoramic like that that's got a high resolution. And that's what I've shot a lot of with that style of drone. So when I initially had a Patreon page, I wanted to say like for $2 or $4, I forget what it was, each month I'll go shoot a new round of or new batch of photos, nice landscape photos of and around Nebraska. And I'll let Patreon supporters vote on what they like, which one they like, and I just give it to them. Like for $2 that month or $4 that month, it's like, here's a Patreon photo. Instead of ordering it from my website for a couple $100, if you want a really large one, you could take it to a local print store, print it there, go to a local framer, have them frame it, and you could get the photo at a much cheaper cost, because my cost is covered by a collective group. Instead of having one person give me like $100 for a print, I can have like 1,000 people give me $2 for a print, and all of a sudden it's much more worth my time to go drive around and shoot the video of the site. Because that was the other thing I was going to do with the Patreon, is as I go shoot these photos, I was going to do a little trip. And somewhere in my YouTube channel, there's a Niobrara photo trip, which was the first attempt at it. And you can take a look at that, where I went to Niobrara River, shot a batch of photos. Those are on my website now, and you can actually, well, I got it open. So let's go take a look. Might as well just do this on the fly. If you go to my website or my YouTube channel, let's see, I might have it, Farm Dad Word Barf Niobrara. Oh, see right there. That was a year ago. This would be a 12-minute video or so of me driving through Nebraska, finding a location to shoot from. That's the Matrix flying right there. Make it full screen. So I tell people where I'm at, what I'm doing. Here I am taking off with what gear I'm using as a Sigma 30mm lens on a Sony Nex 7 camera. It's a mirrorless camera. And here's the panoramic I shot from that location. This isn't the best photo or the most captivating photo I've shot, but what I wanted to show is like if you zoom in quite a ways, there's a lot of resolution. So if you wanted to print it, you could be assured that you'd have a nice resolution, nice sharp image that would look great hanging on your wall. The photos I was most interested or proud of, I found going down this road that had been burnt out a few years ago and all the trees were dead. Yeah, and then I have a few nicer photos in and around this area called Norden Bridge, captured at sunset. That magic hour usually gets your better lighting. The idea was I shoot a video of a trip, and then I ask the Patreon supporters, what photos do you want from that trip? And then that's the one they get. And then the rest of them go on my website at My Air Image. So here's a batch of photos that I shot from that trip, and then I'd say, Patreon supporters, which one do you like the most? They choose the one they like the most, and Patreon supporters are the ones who get a vote, because then it's like, let's say they say, oh, this is our favorite. Well, that's the one I email or I release, like the copyrights too. So it's like, okay, if you're a Patreon supporter and I send you the full file, you can take this photo and go print it wherever you want and do what you want with it, because it is yours. Like, you as a Patreon supporter purchased it, and I appreciate it. So boom. And then all the rest of them would go on the website. So if someone wanted the other ones, they could order it. and my prices could come down with the more Patreon supporters I have. This is all kind of operating ideas. This is where I want your guys' feedback, where it's like, well, it would work better if you did this, or work better if you did that. Wow, this is actually 2 years ago. That was surprising to me. Felt like a year ago. Whoa. Anyway, so that was one idea. And then the other idea I was going to do with Patreon support is I've been working on this website, and to kind of provide more return on the investment. And this is where I'm leaning more towards $4 instead of $2. I was going to create this website that is kind of a central hub to direct people to different parts of my content, where I'd be able to blog about what I was working on or what I discovered, or maybe a story around Nebraska that amused me. And then there'd be a Patreon pitch here kind of explaining how people can get photos or different ways they can support me producing content, whether that support was like kind of a passive support through ads or Amazon click-through links, or more active through purchasing photos or Patreon. And then the one that's really bold, really ambitious is Nebraska 360 project. This would kind of require some collaborative work with other people throughout Nebraska that are drone operators, whether amateur or professional. They would be able to send pictures. If I could either go to these towns myself and shoot as many as possible, or someone can send me a file and then I would be able to upload it to this website. But it'd be a 360 photo of all the towns in Nebraska. Well, that one's not loading very well. Let's try Snyder. Okay, so we have Snyder here. Ideally, I want at least one, but it would be nice to have maybe two, this one during the winter, and then have another one shot during the summertime so you can get a contrast. But the website would be able to make it so you could look at any town in Nebraska from the air in a 360-degree photo that you can navigate, and then have like a few quick facts about it, as well as make it so people could kind of collaboratively or collectively create recommendations or information. So people might say, like a local person might be able to comment saying, oh, you should go to this place to eat, or maybe you should go check out this location for a viewing or observation. Something that only a local would know that's interesting, and be able to tell people to go check it out. Or maybe they'd be able to recommend like an Airbnb or something to that effect. But it's like, oh, I'm checking out Snyder, Nebraska. I'm going to be driving through that town. I've also know that someone's like, oh, go eat at this place or go check out this place. Or you can even post a question and someone else would be able to answer it. That's kind of the dream, so to speak, is to create something really interesting, as well as promote my own photos. So the website would start off at my domain, my air image. I'll have to change the domain soon. As the website evolves, I'll probably have to change it to something more universal, referring to Nebraska and not just myself. You saw two things that I want to do. I want to shoot photos for the website or for my own collection, and I want to create a website of and about Nebraska. And then finally, I want to do a Patreon supported documentary where it's done in like 7 or 8 different parts in ideally 15 to 20 minute videos. And this is just me brainstorming. I write in sort of a shorthand, so if some of the stuff doesn't make sense, I don't show you all the notes I take, because I write notes in a way that makes sense to me, but I leave out a lot of words, so people might read it and be like, this guy's crazy, like he's not talking coherently. Oh, I'm just talking in shorthand. But this is a part that might make sense to you. So the documentary first video I'd like to shoot, if I had a fully funded Patreon, would be, how did this happen? And I would try to talk to emergency managers, maybe some people around the state capital that manage, like the Department of Roads, or some of the finance, or maybe even talk to like someone like a meteorologist or some weather science guy at a university, or I would really want to talk to someone around the Army Corps of Engineers, because I feel like it's real easy to just blame the Army Corps of Engineers, but we don't really understand all the variables. So I'd want to talk to someone out there and get a bigger idea of what happened to make a flood of this kind of scale. And then do another section on all the roads closed, all the roads washed out, how that has affected counties, how it's affected commutes for families trying to get, like, because maybe there was like a 3-mile drive in the town that you used to do every day, and then when the bridges got washed out, all of a sudden your 3-mile drive turns into like a 45-minute drive, and that's kind of created a lot of inconvenience and the economic damage that's going to have. When you've increased the time and cost to haul goods and services, there's going to be an economic impact that we don't necessarily see right away. The next one would be how farmers are coping. Large farmers might be able to cope better than the smaller ones. Some of the I know that there's going to be some farmers that probably just get out of the business after something like this. I'd like to go get their story. Small town Nebraska. There's a growing trend that small town Nebraska, that's just kind of generically referring to like any small town Nebraska. But there's a lot of small towns out there that if they got hit hard, I can think of one example where the whole town was flooded, and it's still up in the air if people are ever going to live in that town again. So this literally could be wiping out towns off the map where they don't exist anymore. I'd like to go find that story. I'd like to go find stories of people that were rescued by helicopter or airboat. I spoke to a friend of mine where she was stuck in a house surrounded by both a river and a creek that had flooded, and she could not get out easily. And that was kind of treacherous for her. I'm sure there's hundreds of stories like that out there. I'd like to go get those stories and do those stories in its own video. Then another story I'd like to go get is, I would call it American Neighbors, where farmers in Nebraska that had lost all their hay supply, we were getting hay donations from as far as like Maine and Oregon, and then all the states in between. I'd like to go find those people on Facebook and then go to them and interview them and get their stories on camera as well, and then talk to the folks that receive those donations and kind of have an idea of how important that was to them and what it meant. Operation Hay Drop. This one, I don't know if I'd be able to do this one for time's sake, but this is essentially the Nebraska Guard was able to use helicopters to fly round bales to cattle that were stranded. They got isolated, kind of stuck on these new islands made by a flooded river. So they were actually airdropping round bales to these herds of cattle. Now, I don't have any footage of this, so I would have to go like get stock photos or get stock images and find or purchase it from people who did shoot it, and maybe I could get that story told. And then the long road to recovery. I'd have to go talk to emergency managers in each county. I'd have to talk to someone probably around Lincoln as far as like how money is handled or discovered for this. So 7 and 8 are a little trickier to do, but I'd like to do them. These other ones, I feel like I could find neighbors and get that story told. So, okay, to sum up, if I started a Patreon, what I would want to do is 3 things. I want to create a new website that is oriented towards Nebraska and about Nebraska, and for people to go to the website and volunteer their information and content as well. I got 2 children that are arguing upstairs, but it sounds like they're like, you learn with your children, you can figure out how bad the argument is depending on the tone of voice. Okay, so I'd shoot the website. Okay, so goal number 1 is to get this website uploaded that I can have Nebraska 360 project hosted on it. I can get some collaborative effort from other people, and then the community as a whole could put comments and information, and the website would grow through like a crowdsource effort. So that's one goal, the website. second goal is to shoot videos of me traveling around Nebraska and getting landscape photography that I can give to the Patreon supporters. So if you're a Patreon supporter and you're like, hey, I'm supporting this website, but at the same time, I'm not getting anything in return. Well, the photos are what you get in return. And the reason I need the Patreon support now for the website is it's not going to be a high traffic website. This isn't a website you're going to get like 5 million visits a month and you'll be able to make your money on ad revenue. It's not designed for that. The idea is it's a niche website that gets a low amount of traffic from a high committed group of people. So the website, photography that I give to Patreon supporters to compensate for the website. And the third thing would be the documentary videos, which I have faith in being able to do. I have all the equipment. I might get some audio equipment to record slightly better sound for it. But as far as shooting good quality video, that's within my realm of ability. And then touching up some editing, that's in my realm of ability. I'm not intimidated by that at all. The thing is, I can't do it with the time schedule that I have. So what I'm asking you is, for me to be able to do this, I would have to quit my daytime job. I'd have to still farm because I have some obligations to some customers that I don't want to drop. But that's small in comparison to like the daily demand of a full-time job. My target goal is $4,200 a month in Patreon support. In reality, it probably should be closer to $5,000 because there will be a lot of cost on my end to drive to places, to do interviews, possibly update a few pieces of equipment, and then I might have to purchase some stock photos or videos. But there will be a business expense to it. But $4,200 is kind of my target goal because already I can assume I'm going to spend $1,000 on health insurance per month. And that takes me down to $3,200. So I got $3,200 to cover my expenses for the month, which is like just my living expenses of supporting the family. Now, some of you are going to think $3,200, you can't support on a family on that. No, not really. You can't support a family of 4. Actually, I think it's under the poverty level. That's why I still have my hay income. I'll have that on the side. So I'm not going to be rich off this by any means. So $4,200 is a low number. In reality, $5,200, $5,500 probably be a little bit more comfortable, and it'd extend my reach or my capacity. Another question is, do I do it in $2 increments or $4 increments? I'm leaning towards 4 because if I had, 1,100 people supporting through Patreon at $4 a month, then it's very doable. This is very easily done, and I'm not pitching it right now. I'll create like a pitch video after this fact. This is just me asking you folks, what do you think is plausible? What do you think is realistic? What would you be willing to commit to? And that can adjust or attenuate the idea or the plan. So, that's where I'm at now. I know this is not a traditionally tightly edit YouTube video where it's all quick. This is me explaining my current position with this channel and where to go with it from here. And I need your feedback. So, thanks for the patience.